Selected works of László Cholnoky. Translated by Petra Sobo. The Demon. As they sat facing one another, the man's eyes were from time to time veiled by misty shreds of memory at the thought that this woman, this splendid, snow-white tigress, was the very same with whom, 15 years before, he had been able to playfully hide for hours among the luxuriant woods along the banks of the Missouri. In those days she had been called Mildred, the beetle-eyed little girl who now received a whole flood of love letters under the resplendent name of Amaryllis. Since then, this was only the third time they had met again, first a few weeks ago, in Amaryllis's world, behind the scenes of the place known briefly as Berman's Gaily, half theatre, half variety show, and ever since, the man had followed in her wake like a somnambulist, driven now not only by the old, lily-pure love, but by the most aching, most consuming desire. From the woman's alabaster shoulder the flame-red silk robe had slipped, by no means entirely by chance, revealing her form. With her jet-black, glowing eye she watched, motionless, the slave writhing before her. In her own soul, too, fairy images of the past cried out for a moment, but cool reason and the steel-hard purposefulness she had long made her habit soon slaughtered them one by one. At last she spoke softly. "I pity you, my dear friend, for I see that you truly suffer. But I cannot help you. Without love I will not give myself to you, not even to an old, dear knight, and love you I do not, perhaps I never did. Nor are we suited to one another, I, the free and frivolous sprite of a painted world, you, a sober, serious citizen, the chief cashier of the Metropolitan Bank, if I am not mistaken." She fell silent and idly toyed with the cut-glass stopper of her little perfume bottle. Then suddenly something occurred to her. Smiling, as though in jest, yet in a very low voice, she said, "And yet, if indeed your passion for me consumes you as deeply as you claim, there might perhaps be a way." The man started, his nostrils flared like those of a starving beast. "The day after tomorrow," Amaryllis whispered, lowering her eyes with a practiced maidenly modesty, "I must pay $50,000 by evening, or I shall be in serious trouble. If you could assist me, naturally, I should not prove ungrateful." The man let his gaze wander dreamily over the imitation tapestries on the wall. He knew that his hopes had collapsed, dissolved into nothingness, yet he could not move. But suddenly something occurred to him as well, something that made his heart leap to his throat. His eyes closed, and before his closed lids floated Amaryllis's snow-white body, as it had so often done in his half-dreams. His face was not pale, but of a dull, ashen yellow when he spoke softly. "Amaryllis, wait for me the day after tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the afternoon." Throughout that entire day he felt as though he were no longer himself, but someone else, as though some new, alien soul had taken up residence in his body. Even as he hurried down the carpeted staircase of the bank building after office hours, with nervous, rapid steps, the money was already in his pocket, yet he felt as though, instead of soft, silky banknotes, someone had thrust a heavy, angular cobblestone into it. He tried to smile at the thought, but as he drew the corner of his mouth aside, his teeth chattered faintly. He did not go home to dine. He was an unmarried, solitary man, free to do as he pleased. At worst old Aurelia, his housekeeper, would scold him in the evening, but instead made his way into one of the better restaurants on 18th Street. And while, after the splendid meal, he delightedly blew long purple coils of smoke from a cigar as thick as a carriage pole into the air, he tried to conjure before his burning imagination that moment when. but he could make nothing of it. When he stepped out into the street, the endless rows of towering houses and the surging tide of people began to whirl about him like a vast, dark wheel, and then he spoke aloud the refrain of Edgar Poe's famous poem, The Raven. Told the raven, nevermore, though he himself did not know why he said it, nor how it had come to mind. When the clock struck 6 in the Carmelite church, he hurried up to Amaryllis's apartment. When he kissed her hand, she scarcely even glanced at him. From his voice, from the pressure of his hand, she already knew that everything had happened as it must. She smiled at how simple and natural it all was. The man's face, as he handed over the money, suddenly turned leaden grey. It was like the face of one dead for 2 days, one who no longer sees the whiteness of living flesh. Amaryllis carelessly tossed the bundle of banknotes onto the table and stared fixedly into the man's eyes. She knew what had happened, and before her, too, there once more flickered the groves along the banks of the Missouri. Old, dear voices echoed faintly, but all this lasted only for a single instant. She shrugged and asked herself silently, "Does the hunter ask the pheasant whether he may shoot it? Which reminds me, I am very fond of roast pheasant." She smiled, and in token of complete surrender drew out the splendid diamond pin that held her dress together at her breast.